Welcome to BFree Energy. I'm Brielle, an intuitive healer, mystic astrologer with a folklore background who pays respects to all traditions and origins. I hope to bring ancient wisdom to the modern world and help you be free in your energy.
Hello, my loves. I am so excited to be back. Total disclaimer, life has been lifing. Life has been happening. So I wanted to continue filming the podcast on a weekly basis where I record and edit an episode each week. I actually came down with like a sickness, just viral, and didn't feel that great. And then I lost my voice, and that was for about 2 days. And then I actually quit my job. This is kind of a whole story. I can go into this in a snapshot because as it is Taurus season and Taurus rules the throat chakra and the vocal cords, this situation for me was very cosmically aligned with the timing of this zodiac season. And as I'll share, I lost my voice in Taurus season, which was at the beginning of Taurus season. With Taurus ruling the throat, I just think that is so interesting, and it definitely went through an initiation of its own. So I have been at this part-time job 3 days a week since like the middle of December. And if you're new to knowing me, I actually quit my 9-to-5 in September of 2024. Which was around an eclipse time. That heightened energy of the eclipses had me pretty much questioning my lifestyle, what I want and what I value. And I really didn't want to be sitting indoors. And that was an office job. It was a little bit more corporate than it was creative. It was working for the man and working for some people that honestly didn't see me for me and respect me for just a young woman that I was and still am. That experience definitely made me stronger, and I can still utilize this skill set I had being involved with corporate marketing, advertising, office management for sure. But I needed to, bring some things to light back then and have these hard conversations with adult relationships in my life. And that was unfortunately one of the harder things as you grow that you have to experience and undergo. But at the ripe age of 25, I'm becoming my own woman, and I know that I can do hard things. I know that I will have to have these hard conversations as I continue to grow. And so I had been in that position for about a year on salary at that time, last September. But I had been at that company for about 3 years, and it was just something that felt, autopilot, so monotonous. Every day was just gray, the same thing over and over. It was odd because I would, not really see the sun. I was in more of a building that was like stone or brick without windows. And for me, just needing to see the sunlight and feel the sunshine, or see plants, or just see the weather that day. Like I really think that's important, to see leaves in the wind, or, you know, if it's raining, like just bear witness each day, wherever your job is, like whatever you're doing, that you can see that, or even leave the office sometimes. And my work was not, you know, providing that. And even a part of this podcast is living with each season and the cycles of nature. And I, you know, really felt disconnected from nature at that time, and had not made it a priority to do anything before 9 a.m. in the morning, really before like 8 or 8:30 when I was leaving. And I just didn't feel like I was pouring into the things that I wanted to when I was in the 9 to 5 grind. And that was soul sucking in a way. It was very robotic, and I just wanted to work on all these different passions and projects that, you know, I have drive and ambition for. But the 40 hours a week and the same thing every day was just, quite honestly, dull, and it's not for me. However, I can acknowledge that in the human form that we are in on this planet, that the, you know, currency and money is all very important to make our lives go round. However, I would like to shift that mindset and just look at energy being the exchange intentionally, and hopefully our society moves to that a little bit more than monetary value. I would love to bring back the barter system, trade and bartering, you know. But with that said, it's just, even though I was on salary, they still kind of expected my butt to be in the seat until 5 p.m. And I just thought that that was bonkers when I had done all my work, and it was very like boring to just sit there. I did make, you know, use of my time sitting there, but with the point of salary and 40 hours, it honestly felt like I was working over 40, and I just don't want that. It wasn't even with benefits or insurance. It was, you know, something I can look back and say, okay, that was secure for me. And back then, that's what I needed, was security. But after those eclipses, it just really shook things up for me, and I got to thinking, and it wasn't the stability or the security anymore that I needed. I feel I had found that within myself and within the relationship I have with my partner and the life we're building together and living together. I felt stable anyways, you know, living with him. So it was like I found the security within myself, and I did not need to have that job anymore to serve, you know, security, because that wasn't what I was in need of. So I actually was in need of stimulation and creativity and downtime, time for rest, and then time to pour into my projects. So that is why I left my job that was cushiony, or quote unquote, you know, stable. That was the salary 9 to 5. It was just not for me. I can acknowledge that I could do it in a different form or fashion again. I could potentially. I don't like doing the same thing every day, so I would want something that's a little more stimulating, or if I can hop out and go see the sun and be in nature a little bit more out of my day, take an hour lunch break, you know, that just wasn't elements that were provided to me back in that position. So I can acknowledge and be a grown-up and be like realistic and be like, okay, I could do this again. If it was maybe with a team and maybe I had some creative factors into my role, or just something that stimulated me a little bit more and something that I would be really happy to work towards, you know, I would actually enjoy what I do. I didn't feel like I had enough on my plate, like it was kind of just the same things in and out, and that wasn't diverse enough for me. So I can be realistic in that aspect. But since then, I have been, curating a lifestyle that fits my wants and needs, and that has been so amazing. Since quitting my 9 to 5, I have literally done so much. Like, I've started this podcast. Woo! I launched my website. I feel like I healed my gut health. I poured into myself with just wellness and awareness and journaling and emotional maintenance with therapy. I have been intentional when I eat. I have not worked while I eat, which I used to do with my meals. Now I am more intentional, and I often eat outside now when I have my lunch. And I started working with a local art gallery. I started volunteering, and I do a youth mentorship program with a family that moved here from the Congo. We do only kind of use Google Translate because they speak Swahili, but it is so precious. There's 2 teenage girls, and they have 7 children total, so they have some younger siblings, and it just fills my heart when I get to help them or learn from them even. We kind of learn about each other's cultures in that dynamic. And if you don't know about me, I also studied anthropology, which is all things archaeology, biology, and culture. And that cultural reference and exposure is, kind of what I get to bear witness to and see beautiful dancing, fashion and dress and singing a part of their culture. And they share that with me in such a loving way. They are so beautiful, and I love to be a mentor with this family. That's volunteer work you can probably do in any city. Where I'm at, we have an international center. You can look into that in your local community if you're looking to get some heartstrings pulled and feel of service. I just think that fills me up and fills my cup, and I have so much love to give. So I volunteer in that way. And I also have a vintage booth that I get to kind of curate and style and stage things and showcase my aesthetic and things that I am interested in. I have always collected, and my vintage booth is in a really cute shop. It's more of like a thrifty shop, so it's definitely affordable prices. And I just want to promote sustainability. So any of the items and clothing I get do have like my taste, but they're also still at a good affordable price so that you can practice ethical, eco-friendly shopping habits, because it's 2025 and we don't want gallons of water wasted on making all these t-shirts in fast fashion. I really think that our planet, needs all the love and support it could get. This has kind of turned into such a rant, but honestly, I'm just sharing my life a little bit. And so this is leading up to, how I've poured into myself and how I've had to advocate for myself in these jobs, in these adult relationships, in these dynamics that are uncomfy. But my mantra of 2024 last year was, I can do hard things. And so I know I can always do these hard things and be brave and, have the courage to be an advocate, have self-respect, use my voice and stand up for myself. I haven't always utilized that bone. I am definitely one that has been a doormat and has been naive in situations, especially in the workplace. You would be surprised where there is a lack of professionalism. But I'm also a very, emotional, sensitive water sign. I am a sensitive being, and I think my sensitivity is a gift. It hopefully inspires you to see your sensitivity as a gift as well, because let me tell you, I have not always seen it that way. I have almost thought that I didn't have, thick skin, or everyone was giving me tough love or something, but now it's truly something I know is inspiring to others. I do wear my heart on my sleeve, but when they get to know me and they know that I'm spreading, love and respect to anyone I meet, they see me be a light, and I think that's inspiring. This recent job I have quit because it has honestly, only being 4 or 5 months, it's taught me a lot. I feel like I kind of grew up in a lot of ways versus where I was at quitting my job. I had quit my 9 to 5 in September, and I took this job part-time in December of that year. So, I had 3 months last year that I really just kind of loved dabbling in what I was doing. I obviously poured into my astrology readings and offerings and BFree Energy and that kind of platform and my branding and those services. So I'm happy that that blossomed out of that time. I also took a course with Maddie Murphy that was really eye-opening, working through your own chart, and I'm still going through it and doing the homework, but it was just empowering and I could utilize it in my business. So I just kind of took that time to pour into myself and increase my knowledge and go into my creative pursuits. And so I decided to take the part-time job there because I had a social media client at the time who was wrapping up things with me for the end of the year. And in January, we weren't going to move forward, which was fine. She's awesome and local and has witchy objects and is an artist. And I helped her for about 3 months with her platform. But since we were wrapping that up, I, decided to take that job with a boutique because I was going to be their social media, website, all things digital person. So I actually went into the role as assistant manager right off the bat. That's because of my managerial experience in the past. It wasn't something that she had before, but, we gave it a go and she gave me a shot, and I was really thankful for that. I really do like the mentoring. The younger girls at the boutique were something of like a big sister, little sister dynamic, and it was really sweet as they are younger and in high school and college, starting their lives, I felt like I could be a big sister type to them. We automatically all became friends. I really liked everyone I met at the boutique. But in that assistant manager role, there wasn't a lot that she ran past me that, normally would have maybe been ran past me as like a part of the managerial team. And I think because it was more of like a local place, it kind of lacked some structure. However, I'm still saying good things because it was just an experience, something I tried out. It didn't necessarily feel like an audience I could like see myself a part of daily. It wasn't like things in the boutique resonated with me or the things that were sold were part of my style, but that's okay. And I could recognize that I don't have to, feel or be a part of a clique or niche or anything like that. I was just there to do my thing and show up to do my work. And after some things occurred that made me kind of just feel like it wasn't a place I could be accepted fully or be in my authenticity, I decided that it was no longer good for my mental health and I wanted to wrap that chapter up. On my way out, I did decide to bring some of those things to light and talk to the owner. And that is when I used my throat chakra and really had to use my voice. It was something that I wrote out in my notes, knowing like these are all the points I want to hit, and I was trying to like memorize and rehearse and just make sure that I wasn't going to miss any of those highlighted points. And, it was brave of me to say, can I talk to you, and sit down with the owner. And I think that she needed to hear some of those things, and just know where I was at and where I was coming from. That was just very hard, because we had developed a relationship where, we were loving and close, but the things that had occurred kind of made me question that, and I had some insecurities, but it wasn't insecurities that I had initially. It was not things that I was like aware of until it was kind of picked out, and I just didn't want to think about my appearance. I feel like true beauty comes from within, and the appearance, as I can acknowledge that it's something she needs for her business and that it's important for a boutique to have, I did not want to think about how I looked every day, because I'm not a person who wears makeup or really owned makeup before this job. I express and embrace my natural beauty, and so I wanted to just show up to work having no worries, and just like, I want my next job to, I only want to worry about having to do my work, show up to do my work, and show up to do what I'm hired for, and not have to worry about like those external factors. And that's really all I'll say about that. But we did end on good terms. I didn't want to go out on bad terms, so having this conversation was very hard, but going through it, there were a lot of stages in the conversation, and it really hit deep for both of us, and it was something that I had to do for myself and be brave with, and utilize my throat chakra and self-advocate. And I wanted the younger girls to see that I had enough respect for myself to advocate. I wanted that to land and be inspiring to them, and them also have respect for me. And I think that definitely did land that way. They were proud of me, even though it was hard. So I had lost my voice actually right after that day. I went to bed that night and woke up, and my throat was so sore, like sick. Like, I immediately went to the doctor, called in, couldn't go to work the next day. The next day stayed home as well after that. So yeah, I was just hit with that sickness. But spiritually, I do believe that our physical symptoms are a manifestation of what we're experiencing on an emotional and spiritual plane. So I knew that it was almost an initiation of my throat and using my voice, that it was sore and done, and wasn't going to talk after it had done this big huge thing and talked. And so it was kind of like a cleansing for my throat chakra after that conversation. And I do think with solar flares and the Schumann resonance, that everything we experience kind of physically, and in our quote unquote upgrading, we can have these ascension symptoms if you are on your own spiritual journey and you kind of undergo these weird physical fatigue and headache, and sometimes like hives, and you break out. I mean, all of those things sometimes can be something we acknowledge as a mirror, and those things we can acknowledge as a mirror of our emotions that we're going through and the things we hold in our body, and that is so powerful. So that was just a prime example of utilizing my voice and how that showed up as a physical manifestation. I believe that all of the experiences we can go through can be emotionally stored, and I really am taking time to process those emotions, as well as working through them and journaling and feeling the emotions to the height that they want to be felt at when they come through, when they come in, not suppressing it, letting myself feel them to the highest degree. I think as a sensitive being, as a water sign, that it is definitely important for us to, hold space for ourselves, giving ourselves more grace and not bottling those emotions up or trying to push them down. Just feeling them to the degree that they're meant to be felt in. So that is my little life update. This is around the middle of Taurus season. I'm using my voice. I'm self-advocating. I know I have respect for myself enough to do that for me and my future self. So now I am kind of free floating for May. Normally I would have some worry for, financial security, but this is where you trust the universe big. This is me kind of free floating, trusting blindly, and again, making time for myself. And oh, how I have missed that. It's just beautiful to wake up and choose how you want to spend your day. And I want to cultivate a lifestyle that honors me and all of my passions. So I hope this inspires you in a way, and know that Taurus season does bring in ways in which the throat will be activated. Maybe you have to use your voice in some way, and soon maybe you start vocal lessons, maybe you sing a lot more, maybe you have to have tough conversations and set some boundaries. Venus, the planet of harmony and relationships, is the planet that rules Taurus. So I wouldn't be surprised if beauty and boundaries are all brought up right now. Having to assert yourself in a peaceful way that may require you to set boundaries. That could happen in Taurus season, but it is all for the highest and best. And that your higher self will be able to align with you better and more clearly, and that you're working towards a future where you become her or him or they. I'm so excited to have this platform and share this with you guys. Let me know if you have any kind of relatable experiences as we go through this time in Taurus season, or if you've just had to have these tough conversations, if you are working with any mantras that have to do with, doing hard things, being brave, being courageous, or setting boundaries. I would love to hear them in the comments. And as always, you can DM me on Instagram. It's BFree Energy and BFree 1999. So my personal Instagram is BFREE 1999, and my astro energy update, all things astrology, folklore, and intuition Instagram is BFree BFREE.energy, and also my website bfree-energy.com. So check me out on all of those platforms. And if you have any curiosities about what your natal chart holds for yourself, I am an astrologer who is intuitively led and offers ancient wisdom for the modern mystic. So be sure to reach out if you have any questions. I always offer freebies and answer your astro questions. If you have things in your natal chart you're curious about, I do single placement readings. Those are my freebies. I can give you a voice recording and explain something that you're curious about, or you don't know much about, or you want to be strengthened in. So definitely reach out on there. And if you want to book a natal chart reading, just go to my website, and under my offerings and services, you can find a tier and package that works for you best. Okay, my loves, thank you so much for listening today. This is kind of just a personal update, but I'm happy that you get to know me more. Let me know what you want to hear on the podcast next, and send me any topics you're curious about. I want to showcase more of the folklore behind certain zodiacs and the wheel of the year. So that's what I'm going to focus on next. But I really hope that this inspired you in some way. Okay, let's connect. Until later, much love.